Hello, everyone, and welcome to IDG Chit Chat Live for the week of February 8th, 2016. Today, we have a jam-packed episode. Let me tell you, y'all need to hang on tight. Hope you're ready. Hi, my name is Shannon Combs-Bennett. I'm the creative director for the In-Depth Genealogist. Joining me today are Jen Alford, our publisher, Terry O'Connell, our executive director, and one of our writers, Catherine Lake Hogan, who's also one of the organizers of the CanGen Summit. Hello, ladies. How are you today?
Hi. I'm good.
Good.
Doing good.
Doing well.
So we are having if I cut out on you all, I'm so sorry. For some reason, we're having wonderful tech issues today. So you all ready today? I know we have a long show with a lot of information in it. So why don't we start out with RootsTech?
Yay.
Yay, RootsTech! The four of us were all there last week, and we had a great time, or at least I think we did.
We did.
We did.
Yes.
I'd say yay for the sleep after RootsTech.
Well, to help us a little bit, I put together oh, come on, people.
I see it.
Yeah, I know. I put together a slideshow because I thought it would be kind of interesting and fun to take people who either were there and missed some things or weren't able to participate. So if there's anything we want to talk about, just make sure to stop me as I go through here. So this is what it looked like when Terry, Jen, and I arrived on Sunday, January 31st.
We won't talk about the ice.
No, we won't talk about the ice. But that was the view when we arrived in our hotel out of our hotel window. So if you're familiar with Salt Lake City, you know where we were staying. And of course, we had to make our annual pilgrimage to the Family History Library. Yay! It snowed every day we were there. Catherine, did you make it to the library at all?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Awesome. I didn't spend nearly enough time there, especially in that section.
You should just plan a research trip because we're always in and out because of the conference.
I know. One of these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then our very own Jen was on Dear Myrtle.
Yeah, I was actually doing a periscope of the library, and as I was wandering around, they waved me in, so I stopped my periscope and hopped in and surprised Dear Myrtle. And it was nice. She was asking us about what we were up to at the conference, and we talked a little bit about Periscope. And the funny thing was that several of the people who had been watching my Periscope were then on Dear Myrtle and commented, "Hey, I saw you at the Family History Library." So it was kind of neat, like I had groupies or something.
Groupies are awesome. Groupies are awesome.
Yeah, until they start stalking you, then it's a problem.
Yes. So,
but it was neat. Dear Myrtle, she tries to do her Mondays with Myrt broadcast from there in the library, and she actually had a really long broadcast. I think she said it was like 2.5 hours or something.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
12, and it was like a little after 12:30 when they quit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But she had people in and out all morning with her.
Well, that's awesome, though. So this next picture is the sake incident, and if you want to hear Terry giggle and my face go into epileptic shock seizures, ask about the hot sake incident.
It was quite funny. The waitress had to come and check on us, make sure we were okay, because we about fell out.
Yeah, I think my laugh was what set her off, because I just about busted a gut.
See, it all started with I like plum wine, and they didn't have any. So our waitress said, "Let me make you something that some of my other customers like, and it tastes just like plum wine." We're going to leave it right there.
Wow.
Yeah. And then first day, that was the Innovator Summit in the morning, and we had set up the booth, and those were our booth helpers this year. We were very grateful to have extra hands for That wasn't family and obligated to be there. First
I
time.
got out of it. Did you notice Jenna Mills is in the background too?
I see that. I just noticed that when I put it up there. And of course, we made a little excursion out to the Great Salt Lake, which is fun. And if you guys have, if anyone out there has not been, even if it is February and snowing and really, really cold, you should make a trip.
It was definitely worth it, cold or not.
It was. And of course,
Yeah.
if you've never been there and you've never seen a bison before, they have this wonderful handy-dandy chart on how not to provoke one, just in case.
Thanks, Janet, for taking us.
Yes, Jenna Havorka was our excellent guide, and it was such a great time. She was so wonderful to do that. And there we all are with the Salt Lake in the background. And yeah, my selfie stick is crooked. I swear the horizon isn't really like that.
It's nice that everybody had their cool specs on, and I was the only one without.
Oh. And
Well,
then,
lucky you get to see.
yeah, that's right. So we attended the media dinner hosted by Family Search, which was a wonderful way to get kind of the inside scoop on things. I hope you all had a great time. I had fun, learned a lot, met new people.
Oh,
And of
yeah,
course-
definitely. And I got to meet AJ Jacobs afterwards.
Yes,
Which was so awesome.
he's quite the entertaining man.
Yes, he is. I had the opportunity to interview him, and it's out there on the IDG YouTube page, which
I
I'll give
watched
everyone a
that.
link here in a little bit.
It was quite interesting.
Yeah, and even though I had a momentary blank mind when I couldn't remember what the name of his thing was from last year, I'm like, that worldwide, and I'm thinking global something. Oh my God. I was looking at him like we're taping, and I can't fix it.
He did well otherwise.
Yep. Oh, and there's the dessert I couldn't eat. And every dinner at the conference hall had an orchid on it, which was kind of pretty. Oh, by the way, I have, I'll have to show everyone later if they want to. If Mike hasn't seen him yet. I have pictures of him in order as he eats one of those.
Okay.
Mike Quackenbush.
Oh, okay.
Well, we should also note that it was important that Shannon took this picture because she left her pile of stuff
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, dear God.
there and had to send it to somebody to claim it so that they would bring it back for her.
For those of you who don't know me in person, let's just say I have a forgetful streak. If you distract me, look at Terry rolling her eyes.
I didn't know I was behind.
Because if I get distracted or out of sequence, yeah, I lose things.
It was hysterical.
And then I freak out.
Wait, and then I was the one like making phone calls.
It was awesome. So
yeah, you
that-
were quite the pair.
Yeah, we keep Jen on our toes.
Purses, fingernails.
Oh my God, the purse.
So Family Search at RootsTech, in case you didn't hear about it, did the Freedmen's Bureau Project Indexathon, where they were trying to do 900 batches in 90 minutes. And I don't know if they accomplished it, but it got a lot of press and was one of those really, really awesome things that people were really excited about participating in. Does anyone know if they completed it or not?
They did. I heard that they actually did, I think, 1,500 batches.
Wow.
So, big
That's
success.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then look, Jen. Jen,
That's my grandparents.
find my pass booth. Yep, go ahead, Jen.
So for me, one of the highlights was that the Find My Pass booth was decorated as though it was a wedding reception. And so they had, you know, the wedding favors, they had all these wedding pictures up on the wall. And my grandparents, I had 2 sets of them actually. I had sent them pictures. I thought they were going to use them like for a little collage or something. No, they were huge photographs blown up of the different couples and the wedding parties, and it was really cute. And so I saw this picture of my dad's parents, and I just teared up. It just caught me so off guard, and it was so sweet.
I have a
And
couple
they-
more here, too.
Yeah, and then I also, my great-great-grandparents, these are, I can't see because the
Oh,
pictures are in the way.
those are Sherry Hudson Passy.
Yeah.
And she's been on
Yeah.
here quite a few times, so I want to make sure we shout it out to her.
Yeah, so there were quite a few bloggers who had sent in pictures, and the really nice thing was that they said that since they weren't going to use them again, they would ship them to us.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing those and figuring out where the heck I can put them.
I will say it was probably the best display within the vendor hall.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah, it was just really classy and nice.
It was very creative, and I
Yeah.
like creative things. So.
Yes.
So this is a picture of the new CEO of Family Search during his keynote address, and I just thought that that was the great image there of what family history is, right?
Definitely.
Just really. And then of course he told us we were all heart surgeons, and we all had to put our masks on.
It's so scary.
I do.
She's got like psycho killer eyes there.
I know, it was awesome. It was awesome. I made a funny face, and then I tweeted this saying my mother always wanted me to be a doctor. One of the highlights for me was hearing Paula Williams Madsen speak, and of course getting my book signed, which I got 2 weeks before RootsTech and read. And if you all like family history, whodunits, is it a whodunit? Yeah, 'cause she's going on a search. I highly recommend it. And the reason I bring it up is because I did a sofa chat with her, and unfortunately sofa chats aren't videotaped, and I know Jen did a couple sofa chats too, so hopefully she'll be writing about those. But I wanted to point this out because her mother was half Chinese, half Jamaican, so that was part of her thing. She was trying to find her Chinese grandfather, and I know this is kind of but I wanted to lead up to this picture because we're sitting at our sofa chat, and a gentleman, a researcher from Family Search, came over, and he was sent to the Family History Library to see if they had any what are called chukpos, which are Chinese genealogies for her family, and he brought her 2 books from the Family History Library 2 blocks away. And let me just tell you, she wasn't the only one with a dry eye in that little circle, as everybody, was, oh my God. So amazing little finds happen even on the spot, I guess you could say.
That's very cool.
It was very fascinating. And to hear him talk about the history of it, and I don't obviously have Asian families, so it's a subject that I haven't studied, but it was interesting to hear about another culture's way they do genealogy.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, Jen,
Very
look.
cool. Ah, it's us.
Jen and I were able to give a presentation on the demo stage, and this was Jen's picture right before we got up there, and totally freaked out on people and pretended to be flight attendants.
I thought it was funny.
It was funny. It was cute. We took the audience on a ride on IDG Airlines, and it was fantastic. And then Cultural Night came and went, and of course they had the bagpipes again. And if you ever get to go to RootsTech, that is how they open Culture Night, is with bagtaps? Yeah, bagtaps.
So.
Oh, it's only Thursday. Oh, and then there was the after party that people may have. And look, Catherine and Jen, you're next to each other again. It was a great performance for Pump Up the Jam.
Looks like Catherine's ribbons are a little bit longer than Jen's.
Catherine won the competition.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently what happens at RootsTech does not stay at RootsTech.
No, because there are videos too. So
I have videos of quite a few people. Just
putting that out there.
I had to share the videos with my nephew and my sister, and they were highly amused. And what I found most interesting is that Dean really loved Pump Up the Jam. He was brilliant. So good choice.
Oh, that's funny. And there's our crew, people we were hanging with, and that was the more of the party, more of us being silly.
Oh, those are fun.
They had this little photo booth there, and we got to take silly pictures. It was great. And of course, our booth with our we started this time a map of the world behind us, and we started pinning not only where our authors are, but where readers are. And there's Terry with two of our writers. That's Michelle Goodrum in the middle and Christine Woodcock off on the left-hand side. They were happy to help us at the booth too this year. Oh, it's the last day. So sad. Can you tell I'm ready to go home?
I was too.
Yeah.
Weren't we all?
Yeah. And then, hey, we have live interviews because we did interviews in the Media Hub. So make sure you visit our YouTube channel at that link, and you can go see I think there's 5 videos out there that we did. That sounds right.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
So yeah, awesome. And it was fun and exciting, and oh god, a lot of work, and I'm totally tired.
Yeah.
It definitely was a lot of work.
Yeah, if you can't tell, but I got my whoopee blanket. And actually, it's kind of cold here in the house, so it's all over my feet. My nice whoopee blanket.
Was that your first time to RootsTech?
No, that's our second. We all 3 of us were there last year too.
Okay.
We're gonna go for 2 weeks next time. I'm just teasing.
No?
I don't think I could last.
I don't know if people go there, like they're out there for SLIG, they stay the time in between, they do the conference, they're staying longer to research.
Yeah.
It's too much.
I know. There's some people that are out there for like a month, over a month.
Yeah.
I would be murdered.
Yeah, I would probably kill you.
That's possible. I mean, we did have quite a few things happen in Salt Lake City that week.
All right.
True.
So that was our RootsTech recap. We thought people at home might appreciate seeing a little behind the scenes, hear about our funny things and what happened, especially if you didn't get to go. Make sure to read blog posts because we have blog posts that have been coming out and more in the future. Right, Terry?
Yeah.
Woo! Yay! Yay! Okay, so let's talk about, since we were so busy and exhausted and not back to the hotel room till close to 10 or later every night, Chit Chat really didn't happen last week. Sorry.
Well, we chit-chatted just with each other.
Wasn't on camera though.
And usually over an alcoholic beverage. So let's start with last week's episode, and then we'll go to this week's episode. So last week, the Finding Your Roots did Richard Branson, Maya Lin, and Frank Gehry. 3 people that I had heard of Maya Lin and Frank Gehry, but I couldn't put a name with a face. Of course, everyone knows who Richard Branson is, right? Love the airlines.
Right.
But I have to say the one thing that I was really shocked and awed about is I didn't know that Maya Lin had done the Vietnam War Memorial.
Yeah.
At
I didn't
21.
realize how young she was.
21, yeah. So that,
Right, the teacher told her it would never be picked.
yeah. She got a B+ on it.
Yeah.
That's a stick it to your teacher moment.
Totally.
So where do we want to start, ladies, on that episode? Was there something that stuck out at you? Was there anything in
I'd
particular?
say with Richard Branson, I really liked how they dug looking for, like, was that entrepreneurial spirit within his family and found it.
Yes.
He actually blogged about his experience.
Oh, that's great.
It was pretty interesting. You know, he went over all the stuff that they talked about on the show, and believe me, I couldn't tell you if I wanted to. But you know, in one, out the other, more stuff's coming in. It was cool that he was very excited by what they found, and that he hopes to leave that legacy on for his, you know, descendants, and that someday they'll look back and see how great, you know, the great things he did and left behind for them to find.
Right. Isn't that what we all want, though, too? Or at least those of us who do research? Maybe. Maybe not. So I liked the Indian connection.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
I've seen some of the British Who Do You Think You Are's where they've tied in English women, Indian women into English lines. But I think it's the first time I've ever seen an American show where they obviously had a British man where that was done. Because I heard some comments when I was talking to people last week at RootsTech where they're like, "Wow, I didn't know that," and it's like, really, you go to India and you don't think they intermarry?
It's a perfect world. We're all still marrying. The Irish are marrying the Irish.
That's right.
Melting pot. That's the world at this point.
Well, I did think it was really interesting that they didn't list the mother because she was Indian. It listed the father who was, English. Right. So it's kind of interesting, it's kind of the opposite of what you would expect usually. Because, a child born out of wedlock or whatever.
Usually only the mother is.
No, the mother is.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I wonder, too, if it might have been followed up with some baptismal records. Would that have showed who the other parent?
I thought that was the baptismal record.
Was it?
Am I wrong? I don't remember now.
It was the baptismal record.
It was baptism, okay.
So I wonder if the actual, if there was a court record for the birth, if that would list. I don't know.
Interesting.
Good question. So Frank Geary, Catherine had an interesting comment about him before the show started.
Well, he said that he grew up in Timmins, Ontario, and that he was the only Jew in town, and he was probably correct because Timmins, Ontario, it's like northern Ontario, so it's like cold like all the time, and you have a large French Canadian population up there. So you have English speaking and French speaking people, and when you get up into northern Ontario. So for him to be growing up Jewish in Timmins, that's kind of like wild, So I could see like later on in the show when it showed where his father was buried, it was in Toronto, and that's not really surprising that eventually his parents migrated to Toronto because Toronto really did have and still does have a large Jewish population. But it just kind of struck me as odd that his parents would have, immigrated to Timmins.
I wonder why I don't think they said why they ended up there.
They didn't say why they chose, of all places, Timmins. I thought, for a Jewish population, there's just not any Jewish people that I know of in Timmins. Especially the time frame, that we're looking at, actually where I live now, like Windsor, Ontario, there was, at that time, late 20th century, there was large Jewish population. And like I said, Toronto, same thing, and there still is, so I would think if anything, they would have gone to a center, a city that would have had a larger population, with their ethnic and cultural roots.
Right. That would make sense.
Nobody immigrates to Timmins.
Boy, it makes me want to visit now.
It's cold and snowy for a good portion of the year. You get a map out and see how far north it is in northern Ontario. It's north.
Wow.
It is. Yeah.
I'll pass.
Is it like Ice Road Truckers cold?
Close to it.
Do you know what that show is?
Yeah,
right?
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
You're getting there. That would be like the start of it. Like the start of it. Yeah, and then if you kept going north, at the Papsky thing, or
Yeah. Oh. Okay,
yeah.
That's really icy and cold. Yeah. Why would anyone live there?
Yeah, I gotta look at a map. It's further north than Barrie, which is pretty far north, and Sudbury. Like those, yeah. Like no one goes to Timmins.
So what did you all think about him changing his name? It kind of made sense. I mean,
it kind of makes sense because I think growing up in a town like Timmins and you're the only Jewish, the family name was Goldberg. Like you'd stick out like a sore thumb, because like I said, you've got a lot of French Canadian families up there. You're gonna have some English families up there. Yeah, I wouldn't be. Yeah, I think trying to fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, changing your name to sound a little less Jewish.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what I'm finding as I do more Jewish research is they Americanize their name a lot because, you know, they don't want to stick out so much. And so, you know, as I've started to do more Jewish research, you know, even the names that sound kind of Polish, they try to make sound more American, even their first names. So it gets to be a little tricky sometimes when you're like looking for someone who came over and their name was, you know, Meyer, and he starts going by Mike, you know, so you're like, I think this is him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is something that really pops up quite a bit with the Jewish community.
That's got to be really hard to do.
Yeah. Well, and then you've got, not only do they Americanize their name, but probably on the ship manifest they used their Yiddish name, and before that they had a Hebrew name. So like you end up with like 4 different names for one person.
Oh my word.
And then if they change their surname, it's like, oh well, this might be them.
So I was doing research for a friend who is a Jewish descent, Eastern European Jewish descent, and of course they came through New York City in the early 1900s, like you do. And I found his probate record recently on Ancestry for her, and he had 7 alias names listed there.
Oh, bother.
But at least they were all in one record.
Yeah, his wife listed them all because she wanted to make sure she got her money. And
Smart woman.
yeah, but it was everything from his given name, which was some big, long Russian-sounding name with like 3 words that I couldn't even pronounce if I tried to, and then all the variations he went through until his last name, which was Alex Money. Sounded nothing like anything else, but he went by Alex Money for most of his life in the U.S.
Money.
That's interesting.
I'll have to show it to you. Yeah. So yeah, it's just how did you get to okay, sure. Now I thought Maya Lin had an interesting but yet sad and tragic family past.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially with, her mother's parents and how they came over here and everything in between. It just seemed like there was one violent tragedy after another in that family.
Yeah. That was sad when you learned about what happened to her mother and the grandmother.
Yeah. Just it's one of those things you just can't imagine.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, that's right.
Spoiler alert. If you don't want to know what happened, stop now. Yeah, no, I'm correct when they said that the grandmother committed suicide in front of the mother, and the mother was 7?
Yes, she drank Lysol.
Yeah.
Which is how my great-grandfather killed himself.
Wow. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah. Who drinks Lysol? Ugh.
Well, it's kind of like me reading coroner reports and realizing that significant numbers of my family all killed themselves by cutting their own throats in the middle of the winter. Who does that?
Oh my God!
Look at that!
Ooh.
That's
Ooh.
Farm community, sharp implements around. I don't know, but I just can't imagine. To me, that act that she did in front of her children wasn't necessarily about her and grief. It sounded like it was almost like revenge, or I'm going to do something to somebody to get back at you,
Talk about some psychological damage and a way to really mess up your kids.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So Jen, you said your great-grandfather did that?
Yes.
Did he do it like...
Well, his explanation, or at least what he told his kids...
Oh, so he lived?
No, he drank the Lysol. They took him to the hospital. He lived for a few hours and then he died.
Oh my God.
But he told his wife that the reason he had done it was so that the kids could go to college because it was during the Depression. And of course, in the biography that my grandmother wrote, she said, we would have much rather had him around
Mhm.
and, you know, to worry about how we were going to pay for college. You know, it's just such a, you know, it was really
Yeah.
sad. My mother was only 16 when it happened. She was the youngest.
Wow.
Wow.
Pretty awful.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
People
But
do desperate things.
right, and then, you know, later I learned that it's very possible that my grandfather had been, or great-grandfather had been treated for depression previously
Mhm.
and
Mm.
had been institutionalized. So I don't know when that exactly happened, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was just a few years or months before this happened. One of these days I'll find out more, but yeah, it's just, you know, the depression runs in the family, and,
Right.
you know, it's an unfortunate thing that we all have to keep an eye on.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
So let's move to a cheerier subject. So, so they gave, I don't know if you noticed too, but Maya Lin was given a chuck pull, as Mr. Gates, Dr. Gates said in the episode, where she unwound it for what, the length of 2 rooms?
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yeah,
pretty
it was
amazing.
really,
I loved the story too, because they have the kind of folklore story about the origin of their name, and then there he is on the family genealogy. And I know Terry's skeptical. I can see it in her eyes.
I know nothing about, so we'll just leave it at that.
Okay. It's kind of like, how do you know you're related to Charlemagne? Is that what it is?
yeah.
Got those gateway ancestors.
That's all you need, baby. And someone's lineage to have stuck around this long and not been destroyed.
Right.
Right? Right.
I just want somebody to unroll my family tree for the ones I can't do and just be like, here,
Dude,
it's done.
I know. I want one of them scrolls to appear magically on my
Well,
door.
Dave told me when I go to, you know, any GHS, he'd unroll one for me, but I don't think it'll be mine.
That's funny. Well, that's an open invitation to go visit. Let's go visit.
Go.
Another place to go research. See, research.
Yeah, research trip, yay! But does anybody have on that last week's episode any last minute things that they want to make sure that we cover or hear about before we move on to this week's?
I did want to touch on the whole Pale of Settlement thing one more time.
I know. Again.
I thought it was so weird that it was 3 episodes in a row that they talked about it. And I talked with my mom about it the other night on the phone, because she watches the show, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know, I was really surprised that they covered it so much. And she was like, well, I'm not, you know, that was a tragic thing. You know, they forced all those people into abject poverty. And, you know, of course, Mom goes on and on about it. But, but you know, it is a big thing for, you know, the Jewish people that they were forced into that area. And so, you know, it's our little unfortunate claim to fame.
Yeah.
So I was glad they talked about it again.
Yeah. That reminds me, when you talked about that, his Frank's, was it his uncle who went to 3 different concentration camps?
Mm-hmm.
That was just amazing to me. I just couldn't even imagine or believe it.
Right.
But at least someone survived.
Yeah, and you know, it's amazing. You know, I've read a lot of books about the Holocaust and, you know, written by survivors, and it really amazes me all that they lived through, and yet they still kept going. Like, you know, they'd get the hope that, you know, oh, the Americans are, you know, they're 30 miles away or whatever, and then all the Germans would round them up and say, like, okay, we're going to go do a death march now. And so they'd go and march them with, like, very little clothing, no food, march them through the snow. I'm like, why are you doing this? If you're so concerned about the Americans finding your prisoners, you know, why don't you just leave? You know, why do you have to force these poor people to, that obviously are like skeletons to march through the snow. So, obviously I don't understand that mentality and never would.
Right.
But it just really amazes me, some of the stories I've read of, just the ingenuity of some of these people to survive through all of this, and and somehow come out of the other side and be able to have a life and a family, and and move on.
But it speaks to the human condition too, how no matter the obstacle, no matter the tragedy or what, we are put up against, the human spirit, once it's made up its mind that no one's going to, break me, it just, you can do amazing things.
Yep.
Okay, since we got sad again, let's move on to happy. Oh, so this week's episode...
Maybe we need a musical interlude or something.
Yeah, Catherine.
What?
We need a musical
interlude.
Pump up the jam, maybe.
Jen, are we gonna pump up the jam?
Wait, let me get that video on.
Oh, no. Nobody upset Terry. She's got...
Blackmail.
That's right. Be on her good side or else.
Oh.
So this week we had a military-rich episode.
They were great episodes.
Yeah. It was Patricia Arquette, Julianne Moore, and John McCain. An interesting cross-section there.
Yeah.
Think of those three as being intertwined.
Yep. Well, I think Patricia Arquette, through the entire episode, just kept getting more and more surprised at how many military ancestors she had, and especially when she talked about her grandfather and how he loved Civil War history.
Mm-hmm.
That was, it's like, do you think there might have been a connection there? I would have gone, yes!
I loved about her story was when they showed the pictures of her living in the hippie commune.
Yes!
They were awesome. She's like, we were poor.
And I know very little about her, but that is totally what I pictured. Like, for some reason, I just get that vibe from her that she's like,
a hippie commune woman.
Yeah.
Power, baby.
What I didn't know is I knew her brother's an actor because obviously, he was married to Courtney Cox and did all those movies and has been into things. But I didn't realize that all of her siblings were all on in film or stage or whatever it was.
Well, I think it's her sister's been in a lot.
Okay. I'm just oblivious.
Now I'm like thinking, because I mix them up. I'm like, no, this is the one that was that. No, that's the other one.
This is when someone needs to pull out IMDb. Got it. Let's see here. They talked with her about Civil War ancestor. I think that was the closest in time ancestor she had, and then he had also fought in the Mexican War, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And then she went back to the Revolutionary War. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So sometimes after a while they all start merging together. But I thought that it was really interesting, especially how I found several people in mine and my husband's line and researching for others where if you fall in for the Civil War, that sweet spot age, a lot of them, especially Southern men, also fought in the Mexican War. There was the largest number of troops that were sent to that war were from the southern states. Very few from the northern states actually went to that war. I don't know if it was just geography or what, but it was an interesting. We got a lot of land out of it.
You also had someone in the French Indian War.
Yes. There you go. Which is cool. Right.
Which is what we call the 7 Years War in Canada.
Around here, you get the parentheses or the slash between the name, also known as.
Yeah.
Cool, because when she talked about how, growing up in the hippie commune and it was all about peace, and her family is still all about peace, and then you go back and you find all these soldiers fighting for their rights, and they're all still about the flower power, baby. So it was kind of cool to see, the complete opposite in today of what her family was.
Right. But then is interesting how they took her into French Canada and then back to France with the original, spelling of her. How far back did they get? Does anyone remember?
I don't remember. It was pretty far, though.
I want to say it was at least the 1600s, if not.
Yeah.
Yeah. In France, which I thought was really interesting. How, of course, once again, you get lucky with a lineage and a line, and you can just the back.
The Quebec records are amazing.
Yeah,
you can get back to France pretty easily.
Yeah,
wow.
I would agree with that.
Okay, good. I'm not wrong with saying that because I know mine went really quick.
Well, my favorite answer with that is it depends.
Of course.
The genealogy, But if you know the family name, and you know what the deep name is, then you find out what the original family name is. Yeah, then you can get them back to France. I would say pretty easy. I would say it'd be one of the easier ethnicities, cultural, ancestries to get back to the home, to the original home country.
I mean,
back across the water.
I'll put it this way. I have one line. The name here in the States was Springer. They changed it when they left Quebec. It was Fontaine.
Okay.
Wow. And once I found that out, like within a month, I think I was back into France. I mean, it went super quick, unlike any of the other lines I've done. And it's definitely not like the Irish. So, but yeah, I believe hers was the 1600s.
Wow.
I think she was surprised too.
Yeah.
She seemed genuinely enthused about all those discoveries.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No tears, but they were definitely like, wow.
I don't know. I kept staring at her glasses going, those are really white.
They were too white.
And they kind of matched her hair.
Right. She's a very pasty woman, very pale, and you got this white blonde hair, and it was too much.
She has a personality.
She definitely does. I really, she's an actress I really enjoy.
I do too.
But the glasses are distracting.
So Julianne Moore was another interesting one. Grew up the daughter of he was in the Army, correct? Yes, because she was born at Fort Bragg, which is an Army. So a military family from the beginning. And
Smith, right? She's really a Smith?
Yes.
Poor girl.
Well, and that's the thing with when you get your SAG card is you can't have the name of any other actor.
I did not know this, so that's really kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that's part of it. Part of being part of the union and part of the guild is that you have a stage name that cannot be the exact same as any other person registered.
And I like how she picked it. She used a name from both sides, so nobody got mad.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking diplomatic.
Yeah. Does not surprise me.
Now, it was her mother who was the recent. Well, she was born in England and came over when she was 10, correct?
She was Scottish.
Scottish. There we go.
Yeah.
That's right, because her grandparents, she realized, were trying to recreate Scotland in their front yard.
Right.
I thought her speaking about the experience of a military wife being left behind was particularly poignant, because unless you've lived in a military family or have close friends who are in military families, a lot of people don't realize what the people who are left, I can't say the wives because now there's, spouses being left behind,
Right. Well, I hear my stepdad's parents were military, they're Air Force, and so they traveled all over the world, and they lived in Texas and Alaska and the Philippines and, you know, all over the place. And the stories that my grandmother tells, you know, it's clear that, like, she basically was on her own a lot of the time, raising 3 kids, and goodness knows my stepdad was not the easiest kid. He was a handful. But, you know, she made it through, even though she didn't have any family around her or anything like that. You know, I think it takes a very strong character to be able to do that, you know, on your own, basically. Yeah. So, you know, I also could relate to that, though I wasn't personally in a military family. You know, hearing the stories of my grandmother were touching.
Yeah, and it kind of brings a new aspect to how people were raised.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, were there any particular parts of Julianne's story and her military ancestors that touched anybody in particular? Putting you on the spot. Ooh.
No.
I can't think of anything.
Yeah, that was the top. I remember.
I literally watched it this afternoon, so.
What I remember so much about her speaking about her parents and that, and I remember a little bit about the immigration story, about how her grandparents had come over from Scotland. Which 20th century immigration just fascinates me because I have none, so I know nothing about it. Okay, well, let's move on to John McCain, because he had some very interesting things, starting out with the playback about his personal life. I knew he had been a POW, but I did not realize the extent of his injuries or what actually had happened, and that's pretty amazing.
Well, how about the fact that he was offered a chance to go home because of his father, and he said no?
Yeah.
And stayed 5 more years.
Yeah.
I mean, every day, do you not just think, I should have taken it, I should have taken it? It definitely gave a little bit more respect for the man. You know, hearing his story.
And then hearing how his Civil War ancestor was also a prisoner of war.
Yeah. What are the odds?
Yeah. That was it. And one that Lincoln himself closed down because it was so horrible.
Yeah, you know it's bad then.
Right.
Especially during the Civil War. Can you imagine?
Right.
How bad was it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking they kept Andersonville.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, now Andersonville was a Confederate prison, so obviously it was on the different side, but wow, you always hear about Andersonville. You don't hear about the other ones. So to me, I thought it was an interesting perspective to talk about a Union prison camp that was so bad.
Right.
What was cool, too, is that they didn't, when they first brought it up, it was like, you know, he was a deserter. You know? So was he listed as a deserter because they didn't know that he had been taken, or did he really desert and then was taken while he was a deserter?
Right. That's a good question. I think it's something that you'd have to do. We'd have to do further analysis and a timeline possibly on that, Terry.
Forget it. I've got my own problems here. John McCain. You can look into that.
But yeah, so he had long military lines too. And did everybody catch his relationship to which American president at the end?
George Washington, and he was 7th cousin twice removed, I believe.
I thought it was 2nd cousin 7 times removed.
Maybe that's it, yes. Whatever. I got the 2 numbers, 2 and 7.
What's funny is when they brought up on the screen the Washington surname, I went, oh no, he ain't no descendant of Washington. He had no kids.
Right.
I'm like, where are they going with this?
You know what's funny is, let me throw a little tale out there. When I took my son out east to look at colleges, we went to Mount Vernon. And we didn't do any of the regular walking around. We did We did the Book of Secrets tour because it had just been out, and I love the National Treasure movies. Yeah. And the lady was that gave the tour. She was this cute little old lady, and at the end we were walking back towards the house from where from by the Potomac, and I made mention that Al's family is connected to Washington, and she's like, oh, blah blah blah, you know, or is anybody in the DAR? And I was like, well, he didn't have any kids. So nobody would be in the DAR. Read about that a little bit more. But it was very cool to go and see. We both got to pick one thing, and that was the one thing my son wanted to see, was he had to see Mount Vernon. And he wanted me to buy him like this $500 painting of Mount Vernon to take home, and I was like, dude, that's just not happening. It was pretty and all. But no. But it was cool to see. I will tell you, Al is related to Washington through his Ball grandfather. Mm-hmm. So last night I went in there, I'm like, I just wanted you to know that, you know, you're related to the king through marriage.
That's funny.
I have a brother-in-law I need to get in contact with and let him know.
So, Catherine, are you learning a lot more about American military history thanks to this show?
Actually, I know a little bit about it. My husband's line of the family goes back to the United States, and so he had ancestors that served in the colored troops in the Civil War. Yeah, so I've done a teeny little bit of that. And so I had an ancestor that fought in the American Revolutionary War, but he was a loyalist. But that ancestor to John Rickman also served in the. I've seen evidence that said that he served in the French Indian War, 7 Years' War as well. So
at some point, you and I need to talk about your Rickmans.
What about my Rickmans? They're everywhere.
Well, I have Richmond.
You have. Say that again.
I have Richmonds.
Yeah.
And when you go back in the records, they become like Rickman.
Okay, cool. Oh, we have a cousin connection here. Okay, so where have you researched where your Richmond or Rickman family was from?
The last I have it to is 1750. Like the birth was 1752. He's my Revolutionary War soldier, but I don't know where his birth is. People thought it was England. The archives letter states it was Pennsylvania. There's a possibility it could be Scotland. So I have no clue. It stops at him.
Okay, because most of my line originates out of the New Netherlands area. So keep digging.
I'm gonna. One day I'm gonna figure it out. That's my possible Mayflower line.
New Netherlands, Catherine. You and I should talk.
I know. So, Terry, I'm going to just let you know, though, the Rickman line, they did not come over on the Mayflower. No evidence of that. No. Sorry. Sorry, hon.
But it's not me. It's everybody else that's connected this family, too.
You can get them back to New York. You get them back to New York State, we'll talk.
Okay.
We'll talk. Definitely. Yeah, actually, I have that one line, my dad's side of the family, with the Rickmans goes back to New Netherlands, you know, in New York, Schenectady, New York, and then the other lines that married in take me back to, you know, really early, 1700s, 1600s New England roots. So I have deep New England roots as well. Yeah. So I'm sure there's a patriot somewhere in there for all of the American viewers. I just haven't been able to figure out who it is. And I've got to do more research. But, you know, I would love to join the DAR. So,
we'll help you with that.
Wonderful.
So
I know with John McCain, when they kept saying that his ancestor was in North Carolina and it was a Tory hotbed, which is what Americans call loyalists.
Right.
I was waiting. I was just on the edge of my seat saying, come on, tell me he's got a loyalist. Tell me he's got a loyalist. And then, nope, darn.
No, he has a state senator instead.
Well, yeah, that's true.
That was kind of cool, too.
Yeah, it was very cool. I like that comparison, that, he had another politician in the family.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I have to say what really touched me about him was seeing that picture, and I don't think he'd ever seen it before, the way he reacted, of his father and grandfather on the same deck in the Pacific after the end of World War II.
It was the last time his father saw his father. His grandfather died the next day.
Yeah, next when he got home, he had a heart attack, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Incredible.
Tragedy.
Incredible.
Yeah, he did quite a bit touched by that.
My husband did notice, though, that in one of the earlier scenes when they shown John McCain in his naval uniform for the academy, he was standing in front of a plaque that had his grandfather's name on it. He's like, oh, that just makes you feel real good about wanting to go to the same school, doesn't it?
Really?
Legacy. Yeah. Well, is there anything else, ladies, that we should cover tonight from that episode? I think we talked about a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. It looks good.
It was really good. I know what you meant. It's okay. We're still recovering. Well, if nobody has anything else to add, it looks like we've been going almost an hour, so I think we should call it. Yeah, long episode. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Catherine, for joining us extra special. Glad you could give us a French-Canadian perspective on a couple things.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So next week's Chit Chat will be on the Finding Your Roots episode, which will have Sean Combs, P. Daddy, and LL Cool J on it. So that should be fun.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fun. They only have 2, so there must be a lot of something on there instead of the usual 3 people.
Yeah.
Or somebody bailed.
Or somebody.
I don't
That could always happen. Jen is correct. That could have happened. Never know. We'll go on the side of positive, though. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, everyone, for joining us for Chit Chat tonight. We'll be back next week, promise. And remember, we would love to hear from you. Drop us a line in the comments below. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Or just send us an old-fashioned email at editor@theinDepthGenealogist.com. And on that note, I hope everyone has a great day. And remember, let's go in depth with all of your ancestors. Bye, everyone.